There are moments in our lives, there are moments in a day, when we seem to see beyond the usual. Such are the moments of our greatest happiness. Such are the moments of our greatest wisdom. If one could but recall his vision by some sort of sign, it was in this hope that the arts were invented. Signposts on the way to what may be, signposts towards a greater knowledge. Robert Henry. Just wanted to make a new video, trying out a little something new there at the beginning. It's a quote from a very wonderful book that everyone should check out called The Art Spirit by Robert Henry. If I remember right, it's actually a collection of more or less like kind of like art philosophy, and so it's really neat. I might read some more quotes and stuff from it. Today I wanted to talk about tracing and whether or not it's good or bad, and I am leaning on that it's good but can be used poorly or for I'm trying to think of the word and I can't. I want to just keep using bad. It's bad. No, it's it can be misused. So tracing has many uses, especially in learning concepts in art. So when you take a college course, not all of them are the same, but when I took two, they were relatively the same. One did things a little different than the other, but one of them I took for color and design had us take images like from magazines and trace the image onto a Bristol board or piece of Bristol paper, and then we were to use that to then go and practice the art concepts that we were studying. So like texture, different types of not penmanship, but different ways to create texture, and how cross-hatching gives you a different texture than scribbling and dots and things like that. There were actually many jobs that I was really loud, I'm sorry. There are many jobs that use tracing. Most tattoo artists are a lot of them can draw, but a lot of them trace because it's for quickness, for time. And a lot of times a customer will come in with a specific image in mind. I learned this when I was an apprentice at a tattoo shop where I live, and I learned a lot of things. A lot of tattoo artists trace because of ease of time. Animators, technically, some of them will actually have to trace. I think I wrote down, I don't remember where I put it now though. I'd written down a few other jobs. Is it this one? Because I thought I'd looked up a few things. No, I didn't. Never mind. I was too lazy for that. But when you first start out drawing, everyone starts out tracing, I think, just about. At least when you're a kid, I think almost everybody traced something when they were a kid. I remember tracing or trying to trace Simba and from like the Lion King and things like that on the bus, like at the bus window. Oh, it was terrible. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I never thought anything more would come of that. It's just like a thing you do as a kid, but it does have its use. It does have its use. I'm a college student, I swear. But it has its uses. When you trace, you also gain an understanding eventually of how things should look, how it feels to hold the pencil, how to how you move your wrist can affect how well you trace. And learning to trace is actually a good way to practice how to ink, actually, which is probably what I should do, but I don't. When you're inking, you're technically tracing. It's just you're the one who drew it to begin with. It's also good for memes. But more importantly, I think what people really want to know is the bad side to tracing, and that's I think when it's bad is when you so when you trace something someone's already done, maybe made an edit to here or there or whatever, but you traced it and then you try to claim it as 100% you. Like, you tried to act like you did everything about it. That's not good. That's not okay. And you should really reconsider just learning how to draw. Yeah, when you trace and you try to take it as your credit as your own, that's bad. You shouldn't do that. Like, that doesn't, not only does it like can hurt the other person, like on a personal level that you're tracing, it doesn't help you get better beyond a certain point, and it's just, you're cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself you're not like giving yourself enough credit that you could learn to draw properly, or you think that you can get away with that for a long time, but it's not a field where you can like do that. It's like you wouldn't do that for anything else, at least I hope. Like, that's like taking a paper, like, in a class, an English class, and you copy someone's paper either word for word or something along those lines. Probably a word for word would be a good example of this. Maybe you changed one or two words, you would still get in a heap of trouble. And then it might even come down to a debate of who's copying who. If you did it on the same day, like you turned it in on the same day, you weren't even late or whatever. I don't know how you would manage that, but... And that's the thing in tracing, when you trace someone like an actual artist, that... And it comes like a huge debacle, and obviously, at least if you're getting your source online, that means their image had to be up before yours, and you can't fight that. And there are people who will fight that. They'll be like, they copied me, and they've got a date on the actual image file itself. There's a date of like creation, and then there's also an upload date. It doesn't work. Be good to yourself. Learn to draw. You don't have to draw perfectly. It's something that's like terrible, and it makes people think really poorly about copying or tracing. I should say tracing. About tracing, that is a little unfair. Like, you can use tracing for like images and stuff like that. You can use that as a shortcut for, like, painters will do. It's a really old technique to trace to do paintings. There's a painter. You can like Google it, and Google will know who you're talking about. People will know who you're talking about. There was a famous painter who, for a long time in his paintings, people were trying to figure out why his paintings looked a certain way, and they had what could almost be described as like film grain. And that's really weird, because this is before cameras were really a thing. Well, what it is he had a system set up. It was like a pinhole system. I can't remember exactly. But it would reflect the image. It would basically be like one of the first cameras, except it's a room. And it would take the image of the person he's painting. He would go into a separate room. He would have them there. And it would bounce the images off of that room into the room he was in and onto the wall, which is why he had these huge paintings that were like picture perfect for the most part, except they would have like a weird film or weird like graininess to them, and it was because he had blown them up huge and then would trace the overall image and then like paint that. And so, but no one's gonna call him, something horrible. And obviously when people think in tracing, they're thinking like taking someone's work. Like, there was an artist on here who, I'm not gonna say her name, and I'm not gonna put her name down the tags, because everyone know everyone should probably know, or everyone does know who I'm talking about, and I'm not gonna drag her through any more mud, because she made a pretty good video recently that shows a lot of self-improvement, so I want to encourage people to help her with the self-improvement, but I'm not gonna say names because that's not what this video is about, and I've already said it too long. But there was an artist not here on YouTube who was caught tracing a character from an anime, and for her image, and she said it was a work in progress, which could be true, but that's what people think of when tracing. And the thing is tracing also applies for taking like a picture of something. Like if I were to look out the window and take a picture of a tree or something that's outside my window, and then bring that over into Photoshop phone and trace it digitally, or even maybe by hand if I plan to do an actual painting. That's also tracing, and can be used, because then I would go from there and then, like, say I would paint it like a traditional paint kind of style painting on a digital medium. That would still be tracing, but I wouldn't call it bad, especially considering maybe everything else from that's just like a jumping point, that's just a starting point. And again, it's more for expedient things, not really for the self-betterment of me. Or maybe I don't want to focus sitting there drawing it and want to get just right down to painting it, and I just need to know where things are, even in an approximate like level, whatever. I don't do that because that's not really my thing, and if I were to, it would probably be because I wanted to focus more on value and color more than the actual shape. Again, that's not really a thing I do, but I know people who do it, and I don't see there's anything wrong with it, because it's a thing that's just always been a method of creation of art. So long story short is that tracing itself isn't bad. It's not a bad thing to do, or a wrong, or just overall something you shouldn't do. You should trace responsibly, and just know that the act of tracing isn't wrong, but the misuse, the how you practice the method and what it's used for. If you're misusing that and trying to take credit for something that isn't you, that's that's not good. That's no good, you know. Slap Sonic in there. No good. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so I'm still nervous, still anxious, and I will have another topic for you hopefully soon. See you later, dudes.